We gonna fight for what you deserve, but we need to play basketball. Caitlin Clark ain't playing no Project B. She don't give a damn about no 3-on-3 unrivaled. We need WNBA basketball.
She's supposed to look like this. Not after the benching, not after the silence, and definitely not after weeks of doubt swirling around her name.
Y'all better stop playing games. Stop playing games, because she will play with replacement players. Trust me.
The narrative had already been written for her. Slow down. She's injured. She needs more time. She isn't ready yet.
Man, Caitlin, keep cooking. Stir the pot.
That story was repeated so often it began to sound like fact. But then a short piece of Team USA practice footage leaked, and in just a few minutes, everything changed.
The GOAT is back, bro. The GOAT is literally back. It's a different type of energy.
Caitlin Clark didn't just return to the court, she sent a message, and everyone inside that gym felt it. The clip wasn't dramatic.
Seems to be a Caitlin Clark only angle. Only watching Caitlin Clark. Forget about the rest of the team. We all know who everybody's here for, let's be honest.
There was no slow motion edit, no soundtrack, no highlight package framing designed to manufacture hype. It was raw practice footage, the kind that usually circulates quietly among coaches and players.
But let's be honest, we all know who everybody's here for. Number 17.
One possession flowed into another. A pass here, a cut there. Then a pull-up that stopped the drill cold. No celebration, no reaction shot. Just a moment that forced everyone watching to reconsider what they thought they knew.
Have to compromise on. And I'm just so glad that she came out and said this, because obviously with everything that we've been seeing in the CBA, it's so much drama.
Inside Team USA camp, the shift had already happened before the clip ever reached the public. Sources described the change not as loud or emotional, but focused, intentional, quiet confidence, the most dangerous kind.
But Caitlin Clark has been one, like, she has turned down so many of these off-season leagues. She has turned down all of these other opportunities because she is trying to grow the WNBA.
When Clark stepped onto the practice floor, the ball moved differently. Spacing opened up naturally. Shots fell in rhythm. Defenders adjusted without being told to. The same voices that had questioned her readiness went silent. Not because they were convinced by words, but because the floor answered for her. This didn't look like a player working her way back. It looked like a player taking control.
It seems like Caitlin has literally one focus, and it's to play in the WNBA, and it's to uplift the WNBA and women's basketball, and that's all she wants to do.
Veterans hesitated just enough to be noticeable. Rotations tightened, defenders backed up half a step, and in basketball, half a step changes everything.
Very high level, and I think the most important thing for myself, thinking about these CBA negotiations, like, this is the biggest moment the WNBA has ever seen.
Passing lanes widen, shooting windows appear. The game bends slightly toward the player who commands that respect. Clark wasn't forcing shots or trying to prove anything. That was the part people missed, and the part that unsettled everyone the most. She was letting the game come to her. That's what separates noise from reality.
We're going to fight for everything that we deserve, but at the same time, we need to play basketball. That's what our fans crave, and that's what all of you crave as well.
Anyone can hunt shots in practice. Anyone can dominate if the system is bent in their favor. Clark didn't need either. She played within the structure, and the structure adjusted around her.
This is the biggest moment in the history of the WNBA, and I don't want that to be forgotten. Similar, it's important that we find a way to, play this next season, and I think our fans.
When a player does that at this level, especially in a camp filled with elite veterans, it sends a message without saying a word.
But at least Caitlin Clark is stepping up to the forefront and letting these players know, listen, we need to have a season, and y'all need to get this done. Stop playing games and get it done.
Then came the reaction that changed the entire conversation. Sue Bird, a player whose approval has never come easily, acknowledged what everyone else saw. No hype, no exaggeration, just recognition. The message wasn't loud, but it was definitive. When Caitlin Clark is healthy, you don't minimize her. You adjust to her. That moment mattered more than 1,000 online debates. When veterans acknowledge performance, excuses disappear. There's no room left for narratives built on speculation. What happened on that floor wasn't about potential or projection. It was about presence. This wasn't just basketball, it was pressure, expectation, the weight that comes with being labeled too much too soon, then not enough when circumstances shift.
I don't got time for these games y'all playing. I'm not going to y'all leagues. I'm going to play in the WNBA. This is where I want to hoop, get the deal done, and I'll make sure the seats are filled so that we can get more money on the next CBA.
Clark didn't respond with explanations or public statements. She didn't call anyone out. She didn't defend herself. She played. And by playing at that level in that environment, she exposed an uncomfortable truth. You can delay greatness. You can question it. You can attempt to manage it. But you can't control it once it asserts itself. What followed was just as telling as the practice itself. There were no big statements from the coaching staff, no attempts to downplay what happened, no pushback, just silence. And in high-level basketball spaces, silence often means clarity. When a player answers everything on the court, there's nothing left to argue. The tone around camp shifted almost immediately. She's moving better. She's seeing the floor differently. She looks dangerous. Those weren't excuses or caveats. They were acknowledgments. A healthy, confident Caitlin Clark doesn't fit into convenient boxes. She doesn't need controversy. She doesn't need favoritism. She doesn't need protection. She just needs the ball. And when she has it, everything else becomes noise. This wasn't a statement game, it was a statement presence, a reminder that impact isn't always loud and dominance doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just arrives, steady and undeniable, and forces everyone else to adjust. For weeks, the public conversation revolved around what Clark wasn't doing. She wasn't playing enough. She wasn't fully healthy. She wasn't dominating the way people expected. Those conversations ignored context and misunderstood growth. What happened in camp reframed everything. It wasn't about catching up. It was about recalibrating expectations. Clark's game has always been about control. Control of tempo, control of space, control of attention. When she's healthy, that control becomes magnified. Defenses don't just guard her, they react to her existence. Teammates don't just run sets, they read off her decisions. That kind of influence doesn't show up in box scores during practice, but it shows up in how everyone else moves. That's why the leaked footage mattered. It stripped away commentary and replaced it with reality. No narrative overlay, no talking points, just basketball. The benching that once dominated headlines now feels irrelevant. At the time, it was framed as a setback, a sign that Clark needed to be eased in carefully. What it actually did was add another layer to her development. It forced patience, it forced restraint, and when that restraint lifted, the result wasn't chaos, it was precision. There's a difference between being held back and being held in reserve. What unfolded in camp suggested the latter. Players at this level recognize patterns quickly. They know when someone is finding rhythm versus imposing it. Clark wasn't chasing influence. She was absorbing the flow of the practice and subtly redirecting it. That's why defenders hesitated. Not out of fear, but out of calculation. They knew a half step too aggressive meant a backdoor cut. A half step too passive meant a clean look. Those decisions add up. Over the course of a session, they reshape how the entire group functions. This is why the reaction from veterans carried so much weight. Respect in these spaces isn't given based on reputation or potential. It's earned in moments where the game speeds up and someone still looks comfortable. Clark looked comfortable, not flashy, not frantic, comfortable. That comfort under pressure is what separates stars from anchors. It's what allows a player to elevate everyone else without dominating the ball. And it's what makes coaches trust them in moments that matter. The silence from staff wasn't avoidance. It was confirmation. There was nothing left to explain. The film spoke for itself. As word spread, the public conversation began to catch up to what had already happened inside the gym. The doubts didn't disappear overnight, but they softened. The tone shifted from skepticism to curiosity. What does this mean? What happens next? That's the space Clark thrives in. Not the spotlight of constant praise or criticism, but the in-between, where expectations exist but aren't fully defined. It allows her to operate without noise, to build momentum rather than chase it. This moment didn't erase the challenges she's faced, it reframed them. Instead of obstacles, they now look like stages in a longer process. Development isn't linear, especially at this level. It's layered. It involves restraint as much as expression. Clark showed she understands that. She didn't argue with the narrative. She outgrew it. What makes this return significant isn't the idea of a comeback, but the clarity it brought. The questions weren't answered with rhetoric or reassurance. They were answered with spacing, timing, and decision-making. With the way defenders reacted, with the way teammates trusted her reads. Those are the details that matter when the margins are thin. A healthy, confident Caitlin Clark changes the geometry of the court. She stretches defenses without touching the ball. She accelerates pace without forcing it. She invites pressure and turns it into opportunity. That's not something you manufacture, it's something you reveal. The leaked footage didn't create belief, it confirmed it. And perhaps the most important part is what didn't happen afterward. There was no victory lap, no social media statement declaring anything proven. Clark didn't capitalize on the moment verbally. She let it stand on its own. That restraint speaks volumes about where her focus is. She isn't interested in winning debates. She's interested in winning possessions. Moments like this don't announce themselves as turning points until later. In real time, they feel subtle. A few possessions, a few reactions, a shift in tone. But those are the moments that endure because they're built on substance rather than spectacle. If this camp showed anything, it's that Clark doesn't need to force her way back into conversations. She doesn't need permission to matter. When she's ready, the game makes room for her. She didn't talk. She didn't argue. She showed up. And sometimes that's the loudest statement of all.